this company that he's grown has then stayed on the technology platform and is doing some really innovative and interesting cutting-edge things in that space. So we are very happy to have Joe here tonight, and we're looking forward to hearing what he has to say about being an entrepreneur. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to turn the mic on. Maybe I don't need it.
Is it on?
Can you hear me now? Well, thank you very much for your time. It is a great pleasure to be here today to speak, and I'm hoping to share some insights on some lessons learned and information that I would like to have if I was a junior or a senior in college in today's era. So, I use the expression do the math probably 30 to 40 times a day with our staff and with people that come through pitching ideas and concepts. And when I say do the math, it's a very simple equation of arithmetic with adding up the number of people in an ecosystem, the number of businesses in an ecosystem, the size of the economy, and what is truly the opportunity that you're trying to drive some monumental disruptive change in, if you truly are an entrepreneur. So you'll hear me say that, and there'll be a few numbers through the presentation. We're not there to impress you, but there to impress upon you the importance of some of the variables they're associated with. So we all know what an entrepreneur is because everyone here is signed up for the programs in some way, shape, or form. So it's quite simply to manage your ecosystem, whether that ecosystem is your private practice as a physician, whether it's an ecosystem as a manufacturer of a small widget company, or whether it's to manage your ecosystem of the next startup as a Google or some software technology company. 5 things I'm going to talk about for you. They'll be your 5 takeaways. Business awareness, importance of your time, what is a business ecosystem, how important the human element is in any entrepreneur's quest or vision, and a little bit of technology roadmap on where we've come from and where we will be in the next 15 years. These numbers are a little dated. They're a day old. So according to yesterday, there were 17,796,181 companies in the United States, representing 155 million people working of the 300 and some million people here. Why is that number important? Because it's only 8.5 is the average number of employees per company in America. And most of us do not think that. Most of us think of the companies with the 20,000, the 50,000, the 200,000 employees. It's these companies that are driving monumental impact in changing the world for which we live in today. And where we live today, it's the age of the railroad, and it's being disrupted by a machine that can take you wherever you want to go. You do not have to be on the tracks. Now, why is that so relevant? Because it's all associated to information and how information is moving. If you look at our economy, all $16 trillion, $800 billion is spent on software licenses. Another $800 billion is spent on making the stuff that works. It's $1.6 trillion of our $16 trillion economy. The leaders in those 2 respective spaces are Microsoft and IBM. 120,000 companies selling software licenses, another 150,000 companies making this stuff work. Along comes simple companies like Instagram and Facebook and hundreds of others that connect people and drive change and challenge the way initiatives are accomplished inside businesses, not just our social communication. So how much time do you really have? Well, I can tell you, you have more now than you ever will have again. 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, 8760 hours. Everybody knows how many minutes are in a year from the show on Broadway, right? 525,600. Well, that's minutes, and that's how you're measured by the business world. That's how you'll be measured if you're a lawyer or a doctor. It's all about human capital efficiency. So we all need 8 hours of sleep for the most part, unless you have the HDEC2 gene, which allows you to get by with maybe 4 or 5 hours sleep. Okay? But for the most part, this is what you require. So now you're down to 5,840 hours. Once you get a full-time job, you're now down to 2,500 hours a year. Because of the fact that you are a mammal, you want 30% of your time to be entertained, you really only have available, am I going the right way? Inventory? 300 hours after you're working full-time. Now, they were a lot of numbers, and these slides are available for you to go back over. The point is that today you have a huge inventory of time. And to seize the moment, and to make sure that if you find a passion or something that you want to follow, pull together the people to chase that dream and idea. So what is a business ecosystem? A business ecosystem are all the companies that are engaged with delivering a solution set to provide the construction of a building or the practice of a lawsuit or something that's in our economy. So let's take the construction of a building. If someone goes to build a building, there's a whole ecosystem around the $200 million project. It starts with the administrators of the university going to the board of trustees and saying, we need $200 million to build this building. They then go to the capital markets, to the endowment, and they say, how much can we borrow and where can we get it? There's a half a dozen companies involved with that process. After they bring that information back, they then go through an owner's representative RFP, they go through architectural RFPs, and a series of professional services to help them build the building. Probably another 15 to 30 companies engaged. Now they get the designs completed by the architect, they roll over to the other side to complete the process. They put it out to bids. You've got construction managers, general contractors, electrical contractors, plumbing contractors, ATC contractors. At the end of the day, there are about 120 companies involved with building one building. When I say companies, I mean business types. When you think of the word business type, that's how you express whom you work for or whom your father works for or your mother without stating the company's name. You would say, I work for a bank, or I work for a university, or I work for a healthcare system, or I work for an accounting firm. At the end of the day, there are roughly 250 business types in America. Those 250 business types all have an average number of employees per company, and those business types are all those that spawn entrepreneurship, because the 11th employee is the employee that's going to get his own shingle, and he's going to start his own company to compete with you as the entrepreneur that have built a business over 10 years. So it's that constant iteration of human, wanting to push beyond, okay, because of some imbalance of economic trade, either between two companies or between two individuals. So follow the money. Lessons learned. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. I'm real proud of the fact that she's from Philadelphia. It's the people in the equation that are going to determine whether or not you as an entrepreneur are successful. It's who you surround yourself with based on the disciplines that you may not have, that they have, that complement one another, that provide some synergy in achieving the goal. So a little business case study for you here. We got two companies. We got company one, proven company, household name. They're going to make a $150 million investment. Company on the other side is one guy, got a simple idea, and he's got a volunteer workforce. Who's going to win? Most of you are probably too young to know what Encarta was. Microsoft spent $150 million to build an encyclopedia, and they lost. They lost because people volunteered to be a part of something that was meaningful and much bigger than themselves. The world's record for rowing 2,000 meters by a single individual is 6 minutes and 33 seconds. Put 8 guys together, that's how fast they can go. Common goal. No individual statistics at the end of the day. It wasn't the completed passes, it wasn't the number of rebounds, it wasn't the goals. Common goal to win, to back one another up and make sure we're all focused. There was another individual from Philadelphia named Friedrich Taylor, and I always refer to him in any of these talks because he was a businessman and a scientist in studying human behavior to manufacture things the one best way. Always iterating and driving efficiency. So never look at something as a failure, but to reinvent the process and then take it to the next step so that you improve and refine. He's got a book that's probably about that thick, if anyone ever wants to read it, but it's all about just iterating yourself and pushing beyond what is the current norm. We've all seen the adoption curve. This is how we're wired as human beings. We've got the innovators, the early adopters, the early majority, the late majority, and the laggers. Most important thing is to figure out where you are on this curve, because your perspective is different than everyone else. And you want to assemble your team with people that are across this spectrum, because it will always give you the different perspective in putting a group together to solve a problem. If you have all innovators, you're going to be running around talking about too many ideas and you won't have enough focus. So you need to make sure that you have early adopters and early majority. So where have we come from a technology standpoint? So everyone's heard of Moore's Law. If you haven't, you're probably not in the engineering school, so you may not have. But it has to do with the processor speed and how much we can, put on a chipset and the price of a CPU. Every 18 months, speeds double and prices come down in half. And this will continue for more than likely the better part of what we can see in our life expectancy. What that means is that the hardware CPU power is truly a commodity in any equation, which is why you see Fortune 100 companies getting rid of their hardware manufacturing components, unless you can bundle it with a solution and a service like the major manufacturers like Apple have done. So the hardware is the commodity. This is Gordon Moore. He was the founder of Intel, by the way, for those who don't know who he is. And then we have Metcalfe's law, and this one's actually much more compelling than the hardware initiative. And Metcalfe's law is all related to the adoption or consumption of the capacity of a network's users to the capacity of the network will occur at the rate of the square over time. So what that means is that if you have 1 million people that are in your reach, once you get to scale in that capacity, you'll then reach that point very quickly once it kicks off from an exponential awareness standpoint. Now, why that's important is because we're moving into an age. So Metcalfe, he's no longer with, he was the founder of 3Com. He's no longer with 3Com. He's with the company, he's chairman of the board of Ember Technologies now, a small company out of New England. But they are a company that has a chipset focused on what's called the IPv6 technology for the Internet of Things. As we move from where we are today with the 7 billion things connected to the Internet, over the next 4 years, we'll have 70 billion things connected, which is almost incomprehensible to the human mind to think about 70 billion things all talking to one another at the same time. So mobile is an initiative that's going to change our lives again forever. When Apple introduced the iPhone and he introduced the iPad, it totally changed